of No Narc November. So this is our second session. If you did not catch the first session, go ahead and check it out on Facebook, on the LadyWake page, LadyWake TT, or on YouTube, or even on Instagram. Actually, we have that. I have it there as well. So check it out. We want to continue this conversation with the wonderful Dr. Leo. Dr. Leo, welcome. You want to say hi to the people?
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Glad to be back for week two. We have a lot to discuss as usual, and hopefully, we have the great feedback like we had last week in the comments. It was a good addition to the show. And, if you have any ideas for additional topics for later, then we would be glad to hear it.
Absolutely. Open to suggestions. We are giving you what we think you need, but if you think you need something different, tell us, all right? So, Leo, I wanted to start with, hey girl, I see you. I want to start with something called complex PTSD today. So most people have an idea of what PTSD is, right? You think of the soldier who's home from war and can't cope with, the things that they dealt with, and you think of the high anxiety and things like that. And so most people think of that type of PTSD. But there is was now deemed complex PTSD, and this is mostly in a conversation in the community around people or with people who have been victims of narcissistic abuse and are trying to figure out what's wrong with them. So complex PTSD is PTSD, but a lot of times it is undiagnosed because these are people who think they have regular lives. Because remember, this is about awareness. So most people aren't aware of narcissistic abuse or narcissism, what it is, how it affects them, um, on a realistic level. Most people think, they'll call anybody a narcissist. Oh, that's a narcissist. They're a narcissist just because they're selfish or something like that. But a narcissist, a real narcissist, is much deeper, much bigger, much more dangerous than just a selfish person. And so a lot of times people will go through these narcissistic relationships out with complex PTSD and have no idea that they have it. They don't know what's wrong with them. The doctors don't know what's wrong with them. And so it goes undiagnosed. So some symptoms include having nightmares or flashbacks, a high level of just hyper arousal, like everything bothers you to some extent, right? Anxiety, jumping, racing thoughts, agitation, things like that, things you see in normal PTSD. But obsessive thoughts, these obsessive thoughts are about the narcissist, or narcissistic person or partner, abuser, family member, whoever that person is in your life. The obsessive thoughts are the thing that keeps a person stuck way after they've left the narcissist. We talked about the gray rock method a little bit last week. I'll touch on it this week again just to be clear on this definition and how you use it. Most people, they'll leave the narcissist and still have to deal with these obsessive thoughts that keep them stuck and recreates all of their abuse, which creates this complex PTSD. And it's complex, as they call it, and so it's hard for people to relate. Hey, welcome, welcome, y'all. Jump in the conversation. Dr. Leo, you have anything on that so far before I go further?
Well, I feel like I always seem to go further as soon as I say something.
Oh,
So, real quick, when you're describing complex PTSD, the first thing that comes to my mind is the term nice guys finish last,
yeah.
right? Nice guys as in nice people.
Mhm.
And what I'm visualizing is the person who is a pleaser and who is a good person, right? And some of us, you work really hard to please the people that you care about.
Mhm.
when you're constantly getting beat down and told that you're not good enough, eventually, when you care about somebody or people, it will break you.
Hmm.
And it has a long term effect because now, as you mentioned, you think that something is wrong with you, and
Hmm.
it's something that you can't figure out. And of course, being the good person, you will always be taken advantage of by the bad person, right? Who, as we discussed last week, will meticulously seek out the good person, the vulnerable person as
Hmm.
well, which a lot of times is a good person at the same time, and take advantage of them. And we use a lot of emotional energy, a lot of resources that we have within ourselves that we give to other people. And unfortunately, a lot of time it goes to the wrong people.
Yeah.
That experience really shapes us and how we interact in the future.
Man, I couldn't have said it better. That's exactly what's happening here. That's exactly what's happening. And just to put a term to it, um, it's called trauma bonding. And so, usually, what happens in a relationship with a narcissist, one is a narcissist, the bad guy, and the other is a codependent, the vulnerable person, the person who's lacking love, basically, and trying their best to please this narcissist person, which who cannot be pleased. Um, the narcissist is never pleased. It's just the way they're made, right? So trauma bonding occurs as this from this ongoing cycle of abuse, but it's due to intermittent reinforcement. And I always love to give this analogy. It's really a study. It's not even an analogy. It was a real life study with mice on intermittent reinforcement. And so what they did was put mice in a cage, and they had a lever for their food. So they taught the mice how to go over and push the lever when they want a pellet of food. So when the mice is hungry, they'll go over, push a lever, get food. And at first, they gave it to him consistently. So at first, a narcissist gives love and attention consistently and builds the person up and makes the person feel like that, they're the center of their world, right? And then the scientist will just pull back and not give the mice any food. So the mice will press the lever and not get anything. So they're used to pressing it and getting their food, right? So all of a sudden, one day, without warning, they press the lever, there's no food. So they're like, okay, wait a minute, press it again, there's no food. So they press the lever however many times the scientists decide until finally they get another pellet of food. And when they do get that pellet of food, finally, if it's after 20, tries, they finally get a pellet of food and they're overjoyed. That really sinks in the abuse. And then, of course, that intermittent reinforcement. So now they're becoming attached to their abuser on a different level. It's like an addict, even though they're probably not really addicted to the food, but they were addicted to pressing their lever. So the scientists will go back and forth doing this and just randomly giving the mice food and then withdrawing it. And then at the very end, the scientists stopped giving the mice food altogether, but the mice pressed it and pressed it and pressed it, and they literally starved to death. They died pressing the lever because that's how addicted they were. That's how important it was for them to get that morsel of food. And in a very similar way, when you're dealing with narcissists, that person who is the codependent will do everything in their power to make that person happy, to give them what they want, just to get that love or attention that they once had. And of course, that narcissist will dangle love and attention in there as long as it works. And that person will usually just lose themselves. They lose their life, their livelihood. They lose their color. They lose their mind in many cases. Like literally, they end up in psych wards because complex PTSD kicks in as a result of trauma bonding and intermittent reinforcement. So it might take a while, but it happens more often than not with people who are on the side of the codependent and being abused. Bro, that's crazy to me. I was just like, it's crazy.
Yes. Well, the problem is the energy that you spend giving to this person who you care about. You know that they're very significant to you because you're only going to give this energy to a certain person, right? That
Yeah,
you're into. And once again, they will suck that energy from you and tell you that it's not enough, right? And then, as Stockholm Syndrome goes, you know, you don't want to be anywhere else at the moment but where you are.
right.
But where you are has you working overtime, trying to achieve, normal results, as you just stated. And also, there could be in any intimate relationship, including family, as you mentioned earlier, family, friends, intimate partners. It can all be sort of related as far as that behavior goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's crazy because I always remember um, just kind of how abusers act in general. Like the people who are, especially when it's adults and children, because this can happen in any kind of relationship. But it often starts with a parent and a child, or some type of parental figure in a child. Um, that's often how narcissists are created and how codependents are created. And so when you have an abuser that has a lot of control and they have the option to tell a person who is vulnerable or lacking or just a baby, a child, they have the option to tell them that who they are isn't enough, how they're doing things isn't enough, and give them a little bit of love and then pull it back and a little bit of love and pull it back. And then that child gets so addicted to that person that they don't see anything wrong. They will never see anything wrong about it. And I've experienced these people firsthand where you're looking at them like I'm looking at them like I can clearly see your black eye. Like you're getting hit every day to the point where you can barely hold yourself up and you're saying, well, it's not his fault. He didn't mean it. I did this or I didn't do this right or, whatever their situation was. But it's that obvious. It's like, it's obvious to me, if anybody else knows, it's obvious to us, to the other outside people, but that person is so in love with their idea of their abuser, like who they think they are in their mind, or maybe who they were at first. They're so addicted to that idea that they can't really see it. And that blows my mind. I mean, not completely. I know it's real, but it's just like that's how deep it is. That's how much of a stronghold a narcissist can have on a person, any abuser. But in this case, because we're talking narcissism, here we are.
So when we talk about childhood, would you say it could be also a child's environment that they could get used to a certain environment and then when suddenly it changes or is taken away from them, they could also experience these types of feelings?
Well, yeah, I mean, in terms of them being having a hard time coping with the changes, you mean? Or do you mean, what do you mean? Stockholm syndrome?
If if they first felt like they were in an environment that fits them, that
Mhm.
is a loving environment or environment where they have fun memories, and then their family dynamics change, is what I'm asking.
Okay.
Then would you say that this is a similar type of effect on the child and their development as far as feeling neglected or isolated or maybe feeling like things are their fault, and maybe working harder for people's approval because
Right.
they take it personal.
I got you now. No, I wouldn't say it's the same. I don't think it's similar enough because when a child has love and attention, it doesn't matter if their environment is different. They can learn to cope with that. Like they might still have some of those feelings of things are their fault or, nothing is right and try to, be that person to fix it for their family, and that's pretty normal when when you have a huge shift in your family as a child. But it's very different than being in an environment where somebody is using intermittent reinforcement to make you addicted to false love. That's what it's like living with narcissists, and that's not what normal people do. That's not what normal family does or friends or at all. So they will probably have difficulties coping and with their growth, but it's very different than those people who fall into the arms of narcissists. That is more like that who with a straight neglectful parent or in a real neglectful environment. So not that it changed, not that it was loving at one point and then it changed to, well, if it was loving, then it changed to neglectful. That's a thing. But if it was like one way, like maybe the parents were together and then they were divorced, so it's different. It's way different. That creates some issues, but not these same kind of issues.
So when you mention childhood, is it also childhood that shapes the narcissist from a child? Is this what you're saying? If so, what type of environment creates this person?
Oh yeah, childhood absolutely shapes a narcissist and a codependent, and basically, you know how people will go through something. You and I can go through the same exact experience. Like somebody rolled over my toe with their car. Somebody rolled over your toe with their car too. You decided you are going to walk away. They agreed to pay to get your toe fixed. You're gonna walk away, take that treatment, and chalk it up as a bad experience. I decide this person has done me wrong, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure they pay for it. And so I'm going to kill, the old lady who rolled over my toe and her kids and her grandkids, and they all deserve this. That's the difference. So it is people, life happens, and sometimes childhood sucks. It sucks for some people, and they don't have the attention that they want. They don't have the things that they need. They don't have their parents present as they want, maybe. Maybe they don't know how to love them. The parents don't know how to love the kids or the family. Maybe they just have a lot of dysfunction, and that happens all the time. And some kids will take it and become more of a victim in life, in that they'll be the codependent person. They'll be the person that's too nice, seeking validation, seeking love. And other kids will become more like the abuser. But person, sometimes they'll be exactly like the abuser, and sometimes they have to psych themselves out because narcissists think they're so smart, and they a lot of them are smart because they're very good at manipulation, so it's practice. But because they think they're smarter, they'll say, I'll be like this person, but I'll be better than them because I'll get people to like me. That's usually the narcissist thing. They need that validation from people. um, and depending on what kind of narcissist you're dealing with, they don't care whether it's real or fake. So, like malignant narcissist, like they'll just kind of, or I should say, a grandiose narcissist, you can fake, compliment them all day, and they don't care. They take it as sincerity. Thank you. You're right. I am the ish. They like that. But if you deal with like a vulnerable narcissist or that covert narcissist, they can tell generally, like they really pay close attention to try to see if somebody's being sincere with them or not. And if they think you're not, whether you are or not, if they think you're not sincere, then that's the kind of person who will want you to pay for hurting their feelings for the rest of your life. And all you did was give them a compliment. but that is how they feel like they one up their abuser. Like, you did this to me, but I have all the power you had, because of course they feel like they have no power. I have all the power you had because other people tell me so. I get this feedback from people all the time. Plus, I'm better than you because whatever they think in their mind. Maybe I don't get caught, or I have more people who look up to me or who love me, or whatever they think is going on in their head, whatever they think creates power for them. But it's the same idea. It's like either you become the abuser or you become the abused, but it could be the same abuse that was experienced.
That's really interesting. So it basically depends on the type of person you will become as a child, how you deal with conflict. Basically, are you the kind that look at things in a positive manner, or maybe take an opportunity to learn a lesson, or are you more of a vengeful, bitter type of person, which I imagine it could also come from your parents.
Right. That's environment too.
Are your parents, or are you opposite your parents?
Yeah. Environment has a lot to do with it, because even a child in a narcissistic household, like who has a narcissistic parent in their household, they can be a normal functioning person if they have another parent who is more of a buffering parental figure for them. And so they can teach them how to be empathetic and how to think with reason and how to deduce certain things. And but it's a conscious effort almost to make sure that, if as a parent you see that your child is going through these certain things because of this abuser, and you have to step in and be that buffer and say, hey, I see you experiencing this, and it helps if you know your child's personality, and you can then go, you don't have to go this way. You don't have to be the person who ends up in revenge all the time. You don't have to be in that emotional state. You don't have to be the person who is people pleasing either. You don't have to be in that emotional state. You can choose to do this, whatever that is for that person. I have to do that for my daughter. Like, she's into people pleasing, and it bothers me, but I know why. And I have to often, stop her in the midst of her doing something that is not in her best interest, but to make somebody else happy. And I have to stop her and explain to her, that doesn't seem like it's something you really want to do. Then why are you doing it? We don't do things for other people just because. No, you do what serves you. What's going to make you happy? What's going to keep you safe? What are you going to be grateful about later? So to have those conversations is an asserted effort, because I know what's going on. But the average person who has been through this sort of abuse, but they don't link it, they don't see, how it all ties together, and how if you don't become that buffer for your children and yourself at first yourself, then it just repeats. And you have this repeating cycle of narcissistic abuse and codependency on usually on that person's part. And it just gets worse and worse until you're a shell of who you really are.
Well, I think you just said a lot, especially about the fact that when you know your child, first of all, once
Oh
you
yeah.
know your child and you pay attention to their behavior, pay attention to cues and patterns,
Hmm.
then you could potentially intervene when you see them, taking a path that may not be the best for them.
Yeah.
And I've been in that position also, where I can observe, my child, and I can tell that they're behaving in a way that they wouldn't normally behave, which
Hmm.
indicates outside influence. Uh,
Right.
and yeah, and you have to pretty much nip that in the bud, at least plant that seed that, hey, listen, there are other ways to deal with, your conflicts, or there are other ways to behave. Let me suggest this.
Hmm.
And also, at the same time, what happens to the children that our parents do not pay attention to? Because I imagine that this is where a lot of people end up being vulnerable adults, right? And vulnerable children to a predator, right, of any sort. Because when we don't pay attention to our kids, who knows what they're getting into, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Um, hey, y'all, welcome back. Um, yeah, so I think it's really important to point out, and I was going to save this for next week, but it looks like we're on this track, so let's go. Um, I have to speak to generational trauma patterns because, like you just said, when you don't see the pattern, when you don't see it in your children, then it's repeated and they grow up. Actually, they actually probably start when they're children, but they don't notice it usually until they're an adult and they're in these relationships with toxic people and narcissists and really everything to find validation outside of themselves instead of trusting themselves from the inside. And that is, and I hate to say it like this because it's not an attack on a parent, but it's like that's your fault to some degree. And it's a harsh reality, and it's a harsh reality that I had to come to for myself and my children, and it's the biggest reason, like the foundational reason that I decided to step up as LadyWake almost 6 years ago and began just bringing awareness to women and our need for healing and how deep it really runs. Because if I heal myself from my codependency and my vulnerability and all of the toxic connections that I've had in life, if I heal myself, like really thoroughly heal myself, and what I mean by that is people will go through years of counseling, like talk therapy, and try different things. They'll go to gurus, they'll light candles, they'll use crystals, they'll do all they can to heal from abuse, any type of abuse. So mental, emotional, physical, or sexual abuse. They'll do all these things and they'll feel better about themselves on the outside, but they never take the time to connect with their emotions, to really feel the pain that they felt back then, to revisit who they were, to look at the parts of them that they disassociated with. And so that's real healing work. And that mess is hard and it sucks and it's painful and it's confusing. And, there's a long list of difficulties that comes along with that type of healing. But once you do it, like once you have that breakthrough, then there is nothing about your past that bothers you anymore. There is nothing that an abuser can ever do. Because most people, they will always hate their abusers. They'll say, that person raped me when I was a teenager. I'll hate them forever. Most people always hate their abusers, but you don't have to. It's unnecessary. And when you do, that means that there's an open wound left there. And that means you can pass it down to your children and your grandchildren. It can go on for generations. You can literally pass down a trauma pattern for 5 to 7 generations. And that means up or down. So when you come into the world and you have all these horrible abusive experiences in childhood and people say things like, why do kids go through it? Like it's not their fault. You brought them in the world. But sometimes you've had, maybe your great grandparents went through some crazy stuff and they passed down these trauma patterns in your DNA. And I mean literally in your DNA. This is not it's not like we call it philosophy. It's not philosophy, it's science, y'all. So when I say that, I want to be clear. This is science. So you have to be the person as the parent to heal yourself fully and completely. And that is the absolute only way that you can really truly protect your children from having the same type of experiences. And that's real. Okay. So you're only as sick as your secrets. Opening the wound allows for healing. That is so true. That is so true. Secrets will keep you sick forever and ever. And that is a part of the problem with adults. Adults versus children, I mean. Adults will keep secrets forever and ever because they think what they're doing is protecting a child. And in reality, a lot of times those secrets are hurting the child way more than it is protecting that child. Because children understand honesty and children can cope with life if we give them the tools to do so. But if we shelter them and act like the world is a beautiful place and nothing bad can ever happen to you, then when something bad does happen, they can't cope. They don't know how to deal with that. And even though I saw a lot of bad things in my childhood, there was still a part of me that had this ultra innocence and thought nobody would deliberately do all these horrible things to me. Why would they do that? That's not a thing. I'm too nice for that, you know? There was a part of me who believed that because that's what I learned as the abused victim. That's what I learned. This everything is your fault or nobody's intentionally doing anything to you. It's all in your head, you know, or nothing at all because it was a secret. So I don't know what's going on. So yeah, that's real. Thank you for that.
And this is why I think it's important, the work that you're doing, letting us know that it starts with self, because it's just like conversations that you and I have had in private about children and how they take on energy and how
Mhm.
they can take on the energy of their parents, right? And the way we carry ourselves when we're developing our children is important because children watch you. Children are very intelligent and adaptive, right? And when you are able to have more confidence in the way you walk and the way you think and make decisions and the way you feel, then you're going to share that energy. And I'm sure we've all seen children who are confident, and we've also seen reserved type of children. We've
Mhm.
seen, nervous energy carrying children. We've seen children, who are very young who already seem to, be stressed or have some form of anxiety. And
Mhm.
most of that really does start in the household. They take on a lot of our traits, especially the traits that we're unaware that we're projecting to our children.
Oh yes, that's that's so real. And I'm going to venture all the way to the womb. It starts in the womb, and I'm not exaggerating. How you feel, what you do, what you think, what you eat, everything about how a mom moves when she is with a child is taken on by the child, and dad too, because obviously dad affects mom. So is you're all in it together. And so the child receives all of that. And then, like Dr. Leo said, once they're out here in the world and they see you and they feel you, even as little babies, it doesn't matter what age they are, they feel you. They can feel your emotions. They know when, like, they might not understand all the ins and outs of, adult life, but they know when you're not feeling good. They know when you're trying to put on a brave face. They know when you're, sick all the time, like mentally, emotionally sick, when you're down in the dumps, depressed or whatever. Kids feel it and they feel your anxiety, like Leo said. And they probably don't say anything, but as they get older, they develop those same issues. And they are issues because that's not normal life. Like, you shouldn't be full of anxiety every day. You shouldn't be full of depression. That is not living. So they develop those issues and, of course, keep it on the low because that's what you did, right? So why not? And then parents turn around and they're so just concerned and, oh my God, my baby, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, you could have done something about this a long time ago. And what you do is you prevent it by taking care of yourself first. It's like when you go to the doctor for your checkup every year, this is preventative medicine. So self healing is preventative medicine for your children. You have to heal yourself to prevent your children from having those same type of abusive experiences, or that high anxiety that you walk around with every day, that low self-esteem or low self-worth, that you know, no self-acceptance, like people out here hiding everything. Like, I don't like, my hair, or I don't like my nose, or, I'm gay and I'm so scared for everybody to know. Like, the most people hide all kind of stuff for no good reason. And then what happens is our children are reflections of us, just like all of our other relationships, right? So they get older and they look you in your face and tell you that you're a bigot and a liar. And you're like, how dare you? I sacrificed my life to take care of you. That's what I see parents doing anyway. And it's not true, because your sacrifice was for yourself. Your sacrifice was for you to feel better. It was for you to say that you were this great parent or this great person. It was for you to hide all of your wounds. It was for you to push down your pain and not deal with it. It was not for your kids. The only sacrifice that you can make for them is to sacrifice all this avoidance most people are doing these days, and really get in tune with your feelings and start your healing journey. That will be effective.
It's interesting what you just said. I was about to actually lead off down that path as far as self goes, how we carry ourselves and how we live our lives, because I wanted to say that I think it's also very important that we work to live a life that we're proud of,
Yeah.
because we carry energy that we feel like we're a failure, that we feel like we're not being fulfilled in what we do on a daily basis. When we can't talk with pride about what we do with our time to our children or other adults, it carries over and they can feel that energy. You can transfer that energy, in my opinion, to your children. Is a big difference when you can walk with confidence and say, hey, this is what I do, you know, and it's not necessarily just a profession, but this is what you do. Something
Yes.
that you love doing, you enjoy doing, you're proud of your life, and, you're proud of your path.
Yes. Yes. Joe, that is so on point. Let me tell y'all, because I can't stress energy enough. And Leo, is your fault because you brought it up. Okay. So I know y'all get sick of me talking about energy, but here's the deal. Okay. Kids will feel your energy, and those of us, I've been there before, who hate your job, or maybe you don't hate your job, but you just had a bad day that turns into a bad week, that turns into a bad month, that turns into a bad year. And you come home and you're like, I hate these people. So and so get on my nerves. Or you get up in the morning going, I don't want to go to work today. I hate this. I have so much to do. There's never enough time. And you tell your kids things like, that's too much. We don't have any money for that. Or I'm broke. Oh my God. That energy just pierces their little bodies because they believe in you so much. Oh my God, your kids believe in you like you are God, Him herself. They believe in you so much. And so when you say things like that, they feel it. They feel your energy. They see you, they hear you. They don't understand completely, but they feel it. And feeling is really all that matters. Because I'm sure you've heard before, like you might not remember what a person said to you, but you remember how they made you feel. It's that idea. Feelings matter and they feel you. And so if you have this messed up energy about life, about who you are, about what you do, about your just comings and goings of everyday life, if you feel like it's dull, life isn't fun, or maybe you can only have fun on a certain holiday or whatever, you feel like people suck, like the kids really take on this energy and they keep it and they grow up with it, and then they become the same type of adult you were, bored and dull and unhappy and unfulfilled and full of complaints. Come on, man. You want to live your best life. Like that is not just a campaign. You really do want to live your best life as an ode to your children, as a tribute to your children. You want to be happy. You want to spread good energy, positive energy, because you take it on and you give it out. You want to be that person because the world is full of people who will complain and talk about how everybody sucks and try to separate people for one reason or another. If your kids don't have that buffering parental figure in their life, in their home, in their face, telling them that they are good and they are loved and life can be good and they can be happy and they can do what they want, then like, what are you here for? Why did you become a parent?
Absolutely, I can feel that, and we've gone over in private, several, examples of, noticing, how the children, will take on the energy of,
Mhm.
your energy or the other parent's energy, and man, we can't overstate how important it is. And you're absolutely right. When we constantly show our children limitations, when we constantly show them struggle and compromise, on the bad side, uh, just imagine, you grow up in a household typically for 18 years, right? And well, 18 plus years. And
Lucky kids.
and this whole time for 2 or 3, 4 decades, all you see is struggle. All
Yeah,
you see is, I'm barely making it. I don't know how I'm going to make it this next month. You know,
right,
it takes a toll on, on your kids, and a lot of times this is what they become. And
right,
you know, coming from our background, um, not having the most money and not living in the best environments, not having the best economical situation, I
mhm,
didn't even realize these things until I went off to college, and I met these other kids who they knew they were going to go to this college since they were 5 years old, and I'm
yeah,
how did you know what I mean? Like, how were
yeah,
you even thinking like that? Well, because their parents thought like that, because, their family introduced these things to them by their behavior, by doing exactly that. And this is how we pick up on things. If we go for generations having Section 8, right? And having, food stamps, aid, WIC, not saying this is a bad thing, but once we go from generation to generation repeating the same behavior, then this is what you're looking forward to. When I get 18, I'm trying to get this apartment. You know what I
right,
mean? When I'm 17, I'm trying to get on this waiting list. You know what I mean? Like, this is how we're going to behave. And, it's patterns like we keep talking about.
yes.
We see patterns, they follow them.
And let me tell you, Leo is being real nice with his example about Section 8. That's a very real pattern, but let me bring it a little closer to home for y'all. When they grow up, kids grow up seeing their parents in horrible relationships, being walked over or being love bombed and then left over and over again by narcissists, giving up all of their personal power to a partner, to a man or a woman. When they see that, they grow up and they do the same exact thing. And they don't take your advice. Because parents always are like, oh, I do my best. I told them, blah, blah, blah. But what did you demonstrate? You told them, like, I was talking to a friend, she said she's not supposed to be nice to men or something like that. And I was like, well, why not? Well, that's what I learned because, because they don't deserve it or whatever. Like they're always, whatever her reasons were. And I was like, but the person who taught you this, do they have a man? Like, no. They didn't. Of course they don't. That makes no sense. So they see you struggling, fighting, having no self worth, giving yourself away to the lowest bidder just to have somebody by your side, um, constantly giving love freely and not getting anything in return, paying more attention to that narcissistic partner, your kids, like they see this, they feel this, and they model that behavior. It doesn't matter what you say, words don't count. Say, be careful hiding the struggles. They can become entitled, thinking everything comes to them easy. It's definitely a balance. Just because, you know, you don't have all the struggles don't mean there are no struggles. Everybody has their own share of struggles, but it is important, I agree, that kids know life is not all easy, but it's how we respond to it. It's how we respond to it all day.
Absolutely. That's always the most important thing is how do we deal with challenges? How do we deal with conflicts? And yeah, that was very important what you just said. Once again, as far as our behavior, giving up, a lot and, barely getting anything in return. And yes, our children can pick up on that energy as well. And, they can grow up in the similar positions, if they don't know the difference. Because like you said, it's not about what we say. We think that we can raise children off of our words and not our actions.
Yeah,
Kids are not dumb.
not by far.
They're really not, you know, and especially these days with so much exposure to the world,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you can't tell them anything. They're not, you know, if you're not showing, it's no good.
That's real. And I must say too that knowing something, it really means nothing if you're not doing it. So a lot of people have a cognitive understanding of these things. They understand abuse. They'll be in a relationship seeing it. Like, I get what's happening to me. I've been there. Like, I get it. I see it happening, but for some reason I can't will myself to do anything about it. I can't set myself free. And that happens way more often than you might think, because the narcissist is smart, but that codependent person is very smart too. So you're intelligent people. It's just that intelligence is not enough. You can't will yourself out of abuse. You can't will yourself to health. You can't will yourself to healing. You have to tap into the core of who you are, because this thing is in your DNA. And I don't even know, like, I'm gonna just start dropping clinical studies and stuff. Y'all probably gonna be bored to death. But like, I don't know how to stress it more, that it is at the core of you, who you are as a human being. It is part of your core because it's a part of your DNA. So if you have something on your DNA, that doesn't mean it automatically will happen to you. But it does mean if you are put in a situation, in an environment that is similar to what your ancestors experienced, and that response, that memory is in your DNA, then it'll come to the surface and it will be the thing that provides you the answer. So when your brain goes looking for answers, when you're in a stressful situation, your brain will find something familiar. If it's familiar, that's going to work, because we know our ancestors did it. When, my I don't know, great 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 grandmother was out gathering berries and nuts and stuff. She knew which berries would kill us and which ones we could eat safely. And so if I get lost in the woods and I have to make a decision, if I have that in my DNA and I ask myself, not just, think you know everything, but you ask yourself, which berries can I safely eat? My brain will reach into my DNA and pull up this ancient knowledge, because I didn't know her. I don't remember. I didn't ask her about berries, but it'll pull up this knowledge that I have in my body about which berries to eat, and I'll be able to do that safely. So the same thing happens with trauma. But of course, trauma will get us in a pickle each and every time. But when we heal it, When we heal it, when you heal it in one, heal yourself, you heal your ancestors. I want y'all to hear that. You can heal your grandma and your great grandma, your great, like they're looking for you to step up and be that person to break the what people call generational curses, but they're just patterns, generational trauma patterns. Nobody can curse you but yourself. I'm just saying. Joke.
And this reminds
I get passionate about this part.
Listen, this reminds me of a common theme that we talk about, in private, and that's following our instincts, right? This is something we kind of touched on last week, seeing early indicators of this type of person, right? When we're in whatever type of relationship with this narcissist, person, early indication and trusting your instincts is very important because a lot of things we do see and we do feel right, but we deny ourselves and say, oh, no, that can't be what it is because that's not what you want it to be, right? But we fail ourselves when we don't follow our own instincts. Our instincts will lead us. In my experience, when I listen to my instincts, I'm very successful in whatever I'm doing. When
Yeah.
I don't, I pay for it.
Oh, yes. That's real. And same here. You have to listen to your instincts. I call it intuition. It's the same thing. You must be able to, I shouldn't say be able to. You can trust yourself. You just have to make that decision to do so. Listen to yourself and trust yourself. It is a huge, huge deal. Huge deal. Man, y'all, we've been running our mouth. It's almost 10 o'clock. I was supposed to get in bed early tonight. Come on, Leo. No, but this conversation has been so good. Um, I'm gonna I'm gonna cut it off now. I'm gonna let Leo give some closing remarks. But thank you all so much for joining in the conversation tonight, for your comments, for your questions in between. Feel free to keep sending them in Messenger in the middle of the week, and of course, we'll be here every Tuesday night this month for our No Narc November conversation. Dr. Leo, you have some closing remarks.
I do. And this could easily lead to another conversation maybe next time. But so I just want to say that we have to decide that right here, right, we are the leaders. We have to stop looking at somebody else to lead our path, right, to tell us what we need to do. All
Yeah,
right. We're receiving information. This is the age of information. This is the best time in the history of the world to
yeah,
learn whatever you want to know for free. You can find information, right? They can lead you to more and more information. And we have to stop, like I said, I don't want to be long winded. We're the leaders, right? I don't care if our family and friends are older or younger than us, right? We're parents, we're adults in this society, we're upstanding citizens, and we have to take that charge and decide that we will lead the way, right, in positivity and living, the best life that we intend to live and raising our children with a purpose and living our lives with a purpose. All right. And once we do that, we can affect others around us and build our own world, make our own worlds a better place.
absolutely. Oh my goodness, this is why Dr. Leo is here. I look, if it is to be, it is up to me. Let's go. I love it. We'll see y'all next Tuesday, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 Eastern. Until then, y'all, peace and love.
Peace.